Fill this place with fire.
Hi guys, I'm back in another video. This is my second Testimony Tuesday video. I'm super excited for this video, and as you can tell by the title, we'll be talking about God's promises. This video is actually supposed to be my first Testimony Tuesday video, but God had other plans. So we're here and I'm sharing this testimony, and I hope that it encourages somebody. But yeah, I don't want to talk too much. If you haven't seen my other two videos, they'll be on the screen. I will be referencing like the car accident testimony video in this video. So if you haven't seen it, you might not understand what I'm saying all the way. So make sure you check that out. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on all of this. And I'm just gonna get right into it. So I'm gonna do a little backstory. In 2018, I graduated from high school and attended college. Prior to graduating and going off to college, I really didn't know what I wanted to do or what school I wanted to go to. So as I was like applying to colleges and stuff like that, I applied pretty late. Some people started like, let's say winter break, December, even Thanksgiving break, November, like applying to schools. People had like 10-20 lists of schools that they wanted to apply to, and I still didn't really know what school I wanted to go to, what I wanted my major to be. And I was really stressed senior year of high school because I was just focused on like, I need to get my grades, I need good grades, I need to do this, I need to do that. And I ran track, so I was like really like stressed trying to be prepared for college. Really, I was taking like AP classes and stuff, and I'm just really trying to get my, I guess, resume together so that I can get into a school. I was receiving a lot of mail from like schools in my area, and I did not really want to go to any of those schools. They were probably like 15 to the most 30 minutes away, and a lot of them didn't give me like the college vibe, if you know what I mean. And I didn't see why those schools were interesting at all, so I just really was throwing those papers in the trash. Like, I wasn't really paying much attention to them because I didn't want to go to those schools. And as someone that grew up in Pennsylvania, like, I didn't know anything about Iowa schools. I only really know about like Penn State, Drexel. I only knew about those type of schools because those are the type of schools that, you know, we would hear about in school. So here I am, my third year living in Iowa, and I'm graduating from an Iowa school. First thought was that I wanted to go to HBCU because one thing I missed about living in Philly, I shouldn't say Philly, I should be more specific. Living in Upper Darby, Pennsylvania is the multicultural environment. At my school there was so much diversity, like Asians and Jamaicans and Africans and, you know, Caucasians and Vietnamese people, and there were just so many different cultures in one school. We had multicultural night and, you know, talent shows and all these things that my school that I was currently going to in Iowa didn't have. And it was a big like culture shift for me. So at first I was thinking, you know, I'm gonna go to HBCU and like experience what it's like to be a part of, you know, that type of environment again, because my school was like predominantly Black. Even though it had so many other cultures within it, it was predominantly Black. I started looking at HBCUs, watching YouTube videos, seeing like what is out there. And then I kind of decided I wanted to go to Howard University. I watched a lot of videos. The videos looked nice and interesting, and one summer I took a trip out there, and the campus wasn't all that. It didn't give me nothing like, wow, college life looks so nice, like the buildings look so nice. It was just like, oh, like, it's college. Like, I didn't get any type of like wow factor from it. Oh, that was that. And then I was like, you know, Howard is far and I'll have to pay like out of school tuition, but I was still kind of interested in going. Like I said, I really didn't have like a big plan idea, like this is school I'm going to, this is the major. Like it wasn't really planned out, and I really didn't know how to plan it out. So then I, you know, continued going to school, trying to finish up my senior year, get my like senior year project and stuff together. So as I said, I was like going about my senior year, just like trying to figure things out and get ready for graduation and stuff like that. And there's like top colleges that come to your school, or that top colleges that like recruit people or accept people from your school. So like a lot of people in my high school was going to like 2 or 3 schools within like the area. The closest school was 30 minutes away, and it was Iowa University. The other one was Iowa State University, and it was 2 hours away. So I was just looking at the schools, seeing like what they have to offer and all this stuff. And I also wanted to like visit schools in the area to see if I would like the schools in the area or not. I didn't want school too close, because if I got to school like 30 minutes ago, I just felt like my sister would just be at my school every single day, which she absolutely would have. So I decided that I was going to check out Iowa State University. So we scheduled a tour and everything, and I went to check it out. The buildings were nice, everything looked very like beautiful and all nicely set up. Like the buildings were big and well constructed, and you know, the dorm looked nice. And both tours, Howard and Iowa State, didn't really take us into a lot of buildings and like show like what's inside, and you know, here's the gym, you know, here's the dorm area. Both of them didn't show me a lot, so I really just saw the exterior part of every building. I think Iowa State took me into one building, but Howard, we didn't go into not one building. We were just looking like outside, and they would explain like, this is the building where students do this and that and that. So I got to check out both schools and see what they're about, and Iowa State had a lot of opportunities. I really got to hear about the opportunities they have for students to expand in their careers and to help them grow, whether it was like personally or academically, whatever. And I feel like I didn't get that from Howard University. Not saying they don't have any, but I didn't get that from what the tour guide was telling me. So I was getting closer to graduation, and I don't know what school I want to go to or like none of that. I don't even know what major I want. I decided I was taking a psychology class at the time, and I really enjoyed learning about psychology because I enjoy knowing like what makes people do things, how can certain things like influence a child, how do those like childhood influences develop us, just all those things, like all the psychological things around it. I like learning about that. I still like learning about that, and it was so much fun. So I decided that I was going to apply as a psychology major. So I applied to first Iowa State University, and later on I applied to Howard University. I didn't know which one I really wanted to go to, so I just applied to both, and those are the only schools I applied to. I didn't apply to no other school because I didn't have any idea what I wanted to do or where I wanted to go. So I just applied to those 2, and I went on with my life. And then it was really confusing because I was like, man, if I get accepted into both these schools, I'm not gonna know which one to choose. So I started praying and praying to God, and I asked God to choose the school for me. I said, I want to get declined for the school that you do not want me to go to, and accepted to the one that you do want me to go to. I think around like March maybe, I received a letter in the mail from Iowa State University, and I had got accepted into their school. So I was like excited. If I find a video of me like screaming and stuff, I'll put it on the screen. But I was like excited and happy, and I showed it to my sister and all this stuff. I was just super happy. But I was also really anxious because I was like, man, I hope I get declined for the other school, because at the time I was really indecisive. I didn't know how to, you know, make decisions. Decision making was just really hard for me. I really wanted God to make that decision for me, so I knew that I was going to the right place, that He had sent me there, that He had put me there, that I would be okay. So I ended up getting rejected and declined for going to Howard University. And I know for some people that probably want to make them sad, but I was like happy because like, you know, God made that decision for me. I'm going to Iowa State and I'm okay with it. And that was the beginning of so many great things. So I got accepted to Iowa State, and then I went to Philly for like 2 months to spend time with like family. And getting closer to like the end of summer, it's almost time for me to return home and get ready ready to go on campus and move into all that good stuff, I just woke up one day and said, like, I want to fast. Now, I've never fasted a day in my life at the time, and I didn't know anything about fasting. So I just started asking the people around me about, like, how long do you have to fast? Like, what do you do during the fast? And all this stuff. And after asking the questions, I had decided that I was gonna fast for 7 days, and I was gonna do 6 to 6. So from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. I was going to not eat. So I was basically in the house by myself because my cousins had went to camp and stuff. So I was just like in the house, and you know, my aunt worked a lot, so I was in the house by myself, and I was just like fasting. I would read my Bible and like pray, listen to gospel music. But after that, I wouldn't do anything. I would just be chilling in my house watching TV, and just relaxing. And the first day it was cool, like it didn't bother me at all. The second day it was a little challenging, but the third day I was like, man, I feel like I'm starving. And mind you, I was doing 6 to 6, which makes me, you know, see how much I've grown, because right now 6 to 6 would probably be a walk in the park for me. It was really like challenging. I was still trying to like have fun since I was basically on like my little vacation before, you know, school started. So I hung out with my cousin, and she was just eating, and it was just really hard because I'm just like, the food looked good, and it was really challenging at times to continue the fast, but I got through it, and that was just a big step for me. So moving on to my freshman year at Iowa State, I moved in, everything was goody, and then, you know, college hit me. You know, I graduated 4.0, and I felt like I was prepared for college, but college came and just slapped my face some kind of way. It was like so challenging, so hard, and I just was so stressed all the time. And like senior year, when I was stressed, I would get these like big pimples on my nose, almost like I'm balancing a cherry on my nose. I don't know, it was just horrible. I was getting it again. I was like, this is horrible. Like, this is the worst year of my life. And I started to ask God, like, why did you send me here to struggle? You know, why did you really send me here if I was just gonna suffer? Did you really make this choice for me, or did I just make it up? As I asked God these questions, God began to answer it. And even though freshman year was like challenging, God let me know that he didn't bring me there to abandon me. He brought me there because he knew I could make it through. He brought me there because he was going to ensure that I made it through, that he wasn't gonna leave me or abandon me, and that I wasn't gonna die, but that I had the capability to make it through. As I asked those questions, God began to reveal things to me. He got me connected to this church, and that's a whole nother story in itself. I believe it's in my channel from the like old Testimony Tuesday videos if you guys want to go check it out. But I got connected to this church, and I met some really like amazing people that poured into my life in a way that nobody had ever, you know, poured into my life before like that. They were so kind and so sweet, and I got connected to their small group, which is kind of like a Bible study. Not kind of, like, it is a Bible study. On Tuesdays we would go to service, and then on Wednesday we would go to Bible study. So I went to the Bible study, and that was the first time that anyone had asked me what's my story, meaning what's my testimony, like how did I come to know Christ. And it was crazy to me because no one had ever asked me that. That was the first time I had ever been asked that question. And I started bawling and telling them everything, and for the first time I was vulnerable around complete strangers. I had just met these people yesterday, didn't really even know some of their names, and here I was like bawling, snot bubbles, everything in front of them. And it felt good to finally just be vulnerable and free and open up, you know. It felt so good. And so many great things happened freshman year while I was like stressing over my schoolwork and stuff. And even though academically I was doing horrible because I went from a 4.0 to like a 2.3, I was doing horrible. Spiritually, I felt like I was growing my freshman year of college, and I ended up getting baptized, And it was a great time. And it didn't start off great. In the beginning I was like partying and doing all that stuff, but as time went on, those things were just not fun for me anymore. That brings me to why I'm here sharing this testimony today. So in the beginning of January, I was like, preparing to come back to school and preparing myself for the new semester. I was excited, new semester, fresh start, and then I received a letter in my email, and it said, pick your letter. So I went and I clicked the letter, and I began to read it, and as I read it, it said, based off these allegations, you can be suspended or expelled. As I'm reading the letter, it said a lot more than that, but as I'm reading the letter, suspended, expelled is just in bold, big letters. My heart is beating, like 100 miles a minute, and I'm like screaming in the inside. I'm like, I'm gonna get expelled. I'm gonna get expelled. 4 years at the school, and I'm gonna get expelled. And as someone that absolutely does not do anything wrong, honestly, I've had one detention in my entire life, and it was for being late to school too many times. I had a friend that used to go to detention all the time, and I used to sign off for other people's detentions just to go sit in detention with her. So I literally used to do other people's detention for them without their acknowledgement. I've never been suspended, never been expelled, always got good grades up until, freshman year of college. And now I was being threatened with expulsion or suspension. And college suspension, which is, I started to do research on it because I was like, I've never heard of this. I don't know what it's like. Do you just leave for a few days and come back? And apparently it can be from one whole semester to a year, which can push down your graduation date. Now, I'm supposed to graduate next semester, so I'm just like, whoa. Like, I'm freaking out. I'm not even gonna lie, I'm freaking out. So I called my sister, I tell her about the situation. I'm still freaking out, hang up the phone with her. And I began to cry. Because honestly, I was super hopeful entering into 2022. I was like working towards, building a closer relationship with God. And at that moment, I just felt like, God, you brought me here to leave me. You brought me here, you sent me here, you chose this school for me, and now you are abandoning me. You were leaving me for dead, and you promised not to leave me. You promised that I would make it through this, and now I'm being kicked out. I'm being kicked out. So I'm like crying, and I'm not saying anything, I'm just crying, but this is what's going through my head. And then my boyfriend looks at me, and he's like, 5 minutes. Now, me being me, I'm like prepared to catch attitude because I'm like, what is he talking about 5 minutes? He's seen me over here crying. So then he's like, 5 minutes. And I'm like, what? Why you keep saying 5 minutes? You have 5 minutes to cry and then you're done. And this is like, I'm just like, and then I'm like, no. And he was like, you can't control the situation, so just let it go and give it to God. And in this moment, I'm like, God, this you? Because I honestly was sitting there prepared to soak. And if you watch my car crash testimony video, then you know I spent a lot of time in 2021 soaking. Just soaking. And in that exact moment when he said, you can't do anything about it, so just let go and give it to God, I just felt like God was speaking through him to me. Like, that was the message that I needed, because it's like God knew in that moment. I was crying, I was preparing to just soak. So he told me, it was like 5 minutes, and 5 minutes is up, you gotta stop crying. So that's what I did, and I actually probably got up before the 5 minutes, and I was like, I'm gonna like go and like take a shower. So I went in the bathroom to take a shower, and I put my gospel music on like I normally do. But the thing about this is, you know, when I went to my playlist, there was like a song already like playing, and so I went to it, and it was Let Go. Let Go by, I don't know his name. I feel so bad because I listen to that song all the time. But I'll put it on the screen. Like, I was playing. And I'm like, God, would you not tell me? Because first he over here telling me I can't control the situation. So let go. Now let go. The song is playing on my phone. And I'm just like, so I let the song play. It was playing from like the middle. So I put it in the beginning. I got in the shower. And I just started to like cry, but it don't count because, you know, the water was coming down, so we not gonna count those tears. I started to cry and I started to pray. But the thing about this time around that was different from my car crash video is like when I prayed with faith. I prayed that God was working and that everything was working out for my good. I prayed that even though it looked like a bad situation, that God was gonna somehow make it work out for the better of my good. And I was sitting there, and as I'm sitting in the shower, like crying and praying out to God and listening to the song is really just, every lyric was just talking to me. And even the songs that played after that, they were talking to me, and they were talking to my situation in a way that I listen to the same gospel playlist, like my gospel playlist all the time, and it's never felt that way. But in that moment, it felt like every song was speaking to me. So I prayed and I got myself together. And when I tell you, as soon as I turned off that water and I stepped out the shower, it's like something was lifted off of me and I felt light. And I started to laugh. I started to laugh with joy, and I felt so happy. And it was the definition of having peace in the midst of the storm. And it's because I had grabbed hold of my faith. I had done what God had been waiting for me to do. And I just grabbed hold of my faith instead of soaking in my sorrow, instead of feeling sorry for myself, instead of laying down to die and listening to the enemy. I grabbed hold of my faith. I said, God, you chose this school for me. You brought me here. And I know you won't leave me. I know I can make it through. And I grabbed hold of my faith. And because of that, I felt so light and so happy coming out of the shower. I was just like laughing and dancing. And mind you, 0.5 seconds ago, I was just crying. I was like laughing now and dancing, and I felt different. I still feel it. That's the crazy thing. I still feel it. Even talking about it just makes me so happy because I felt renewed. I felt restored. I felt brand new. And it felt so good. So I had a scheduled appointment with code of misconduct people from my school. I didn't explain what I got in trouble for, but basically I was in this class. The class was really hard. The teacher wasn't helping us at all. She was not a good professor. She was not helpful in any way, shape, and form. So we created this group chat, and the group chat was first created to help one another, but eventually it just became a group chat where people was like giving answers and help, like giving answers on the homework, giving answers for this, giving answers for that. And the role I played in it was on, I think, both of the exams. We only had 2 exams in class. On both the exams, people were asking like, oh, was the exam hard? Like, what questions were an exam? And I was like saying questions of the exam. I didn't really at the time think it was like a big issue that I was gonna get in trouble for, because I wasn't gonna do it. At the end of the day, somebody screenshot the responses and stuff like that, send it to the code of misconduct people, and apparently a bunch of us got the same letter. It was like 60 people inside the group chat from like all of her classes. And yeah, so that happened and we got in trouble. I was like a level 2. It's like a higher level. Like I couldn't end up with just like a warning type of thing. I had to have some type of consequence. From the time I got the letter to the time of the meeting that I scheduled with the lady, it was like four days. So waiting those 4 days, I'm like really like trying to hold on to my faith, because the enemy is in one ear and God is, other ear, and I was like really trying to hold on to my faith. And at times I would like feel like sharp pains in my heart. Like I don't know how to explain it. So I'm just trying to speak truth over all the lies and just say like, God got me, I'm gonna get through this, do what I gotta do to like keep my faith strong so that I don't sulk. So it really took a lot. I was like pushing, and because I kept pushing, the lighter I felt, the more peace I felt. I felt so good because I kept like drowning the sound of the enemy with the sound of God, so that it got to a point where like God's voice was so loud and I couldn't hear the lies of the enemy so more. And as I was writing in my journal, the day I received that letter, I wrote in my journal, and this is really what gave me the strength to push through on those 4 days. I'm just gonna read to you what I wrote on that day. So I said, Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this day you have blessed me with. Today I woke up to bad news. I cried, I felt heartbroken. I questioned why you would send me to the school to allow me to be kicked out. Then I got myself together and I started to worship you in my tough times, because 2021 I allowed myself to soak in my pain way too long. I allowed my circumstances to consume me to the point that I felt like you left me when I in fact left you. Not anymore. 2022, I will praise you in the middle of the pain. I will have faith even when it seems like you are not there. Because your word says you would never leave me or forsake me. I trust in you, Lord, that you are working in my favor and that this is a test to strengthen my relationship with you. It is not meant to harm me, but to help me grow. I said 2022, I want to grow in my relationship with God, and this is my first test. I will not lay down to die. I will get up and glorify your name. In Jesus' name, thank you, Yahweh. Glory be to God. My testimony is right around the corner. And this is really what kept me going, because as I started off, it felt like, I was writing it. This was me. But it's like God started to speak to me through my journal. And it's something that I encounter often when I write in my journal. Sometimes I'm just writing and my hand literally is like moving so fast, and I'm like, there's no way I can even think this fast to write. Like it's just so supernatural in a way that only some people understand what I'm saying. So when I wrote this, it was like God was responding to me. So I went back to read it and I said, this is a test to strengthen my relationship with you. And I started to remember, what did I ask God for on New Year's or before New Year's? And I started asking him for like a stronger relationship with him. And then it clicked that, this was my test. This was the first test that I was gonna get that was gonna strengthen my relationship with him. And it was to test to see, was I going to go and soak in my sorrow, or was I going to grab hold of my faith and trust that God was in control? So as I was waiting for those 4 days, I was really reading this. I even wrote it on a sticky note. I said, the last verse I said, or word I said was, your testimony is right around the corner. And I felt like God was saying that to me. So I wrote it on a sticky note. I put it on my table where I can look at it every day, and I said it every day because I was holding on to that promise that God said to me. Your testimony is right around the corner. I was holding on to the promise that God brought me here for a reason, not to leave me, not to abandon me, and not to hurt me, but that this was going to help me grow in my relationship, that this was the first step to me becoming better. And I held on to those promises. And I continue to read this because, like I said, towards the end, it just stopped feeling like I was saying it. It started feeling like this is what God was telling me. I'm going to get up and glorify your name. It is not meant to harm me, but to help me. This is a test to strengthen you. This is my first test. It's crazy. It's so crazy to me. So I would read this sometimes twice a day. And I felt like, man, I don't see this working out, God. And I would just hold on to it and not let go. And I would say it out loud if I felt like the enemy was trying to tell me a lie, or if I felt like discouraged. I would say it out loud. And I really held on to it. So the day came when I was supposed to sit down and talk to a lady about my consequence. And she was really nice and like happy in a way that I didn't expect her to. I expected her to be like mean and like mad at me, like you were doing bad things. I don't know, but she was really, really nice. So we basically talked about like consequences and stuff, and she read over the letter and she kind of broke down things to me and stuff like that, how she got the information and all this other stuff. After the first meeting, I felt really relieved. We still hadn't like came up with my consequence, but I felt relieved because I was like, you know, this is my first offense in college ever. Like, I've never gotten in trouble for anything. And I was like, I really don't want it to end in me being suspended or expelled. And she was like, there's other options and we can discuss all that, blah, 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 blah. So the next day I scheduled, we met up. She was like, what do you think a good consequence would be? And so it was like, the first three consequences, first one was warning. And I knew she was gonna give me a warning. Just because of the evidence I had against me. Like, she literally had all the screenshots and stuff. So I knew she was never gonna give me a warning. So then I was like, probation, because probation was the second one. And she was like, I'm thinking about suspended deferred. And I'm like, at the sound of the word suspended, I'm like, oh my gosh, you said we could settle this without me being suspended. And I'm like, okay, could you explain to me what that is? And then she started explaining. So basically, you know, I'm like, basically it's like being watched. Like, it's gonna say suspended deferred on my transcript for now until I graduate. And it's basically gonna say that so it's basically saying that I'm being watched if I do anything along the lines of the situation that I was in, like giving out homework answers or any type of thing, any type of misconduct, academic misconduct, plagiarism, any of that stuff. If I get in trouble for any of that stuff, I'm going to be suspended. And so I was like, okay, you know, that sounds good. So then she was like going over other stuff. So we came up with a agreement to resolve the issue. We just finalized it a few days ago. I was like just worshiping God and praising God that, you know, I didn't get suspended because he kept his promise, and, you know, it didn't end bad, and I felt relieved. And it was just like God showing that, you know, he's always with me, no matter the issue, no matter the problem. And even when I can't see the outcome, I should just hold on to his promise. It meant more spiritually because I felt like I just gained my faith back from being from that previous, you know, mindset during my car crash to being here, being now 2022, and feeling like, you know, maybe my 2022 is doomed if this is happening to me. And then finally grabbing hold of my faith and saying, you know what, you know, I might be standing right in front of this issue, this problem, this circumstance, but this is not where it ends. This is where it begins. And I got past all that, and I was so happy. And I was thinking about, like, you know, of course I gotta do a testimony video, and since I'm doing Testimony Tuesday, I might as well like do that, right? As I was thinking about this video, I just started getting all these like scriptures and Bible verses, because, you know, I always gotta back it up with scripture. And God was just giving me a bunch of like scriptures and stuff like that. And the first one that came to me was Hebrew 1:1, and it talks about what faith is. And it said, now faith is confidence in what we hope for, assurance in what we do not see. And as I was going through, my situation, I was really hoping for the best outcome, the outcome that worked in my favor, even though I couldn't see it. Based off the document I received, expulsion or suspension was the only way out of that situation. But with my faith, I was seeing beyond the situation in front of me, that it didn't have to end here, but that there was something else, some other outcome, some other option. And that's what I held on to. And I was holding on to the promise that God said that he wouldn't leave me or forsake me, that he didn't bring me here just to leave me. So I had confidence in that promise that God made me. And I was sure that God was going to show up. He was going to show up. Even though I couldn't see it. I couldn't see the outcome of this. It could have ended bad. But God had my back. And then a question came to me. And the question was, when you think of faith, who do you think of? Instantly, I thought of Abraham. Abraham was so faithful to God. And the story that came to me was the story where God told him to kill his son. So I'm going to read that story to you guys. I'm not going to put it on the screen just because it's long. I'm going to read the entire Genesis 22. Sometime later, God tested Abraham. He said to him, Abraham, here I am, he replied. Then God said, take your son, your only son whom you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain I will show you. Early the next morning, Abraham got up and loaded his donkey. He took with him 2 of his servants and his son Isaac. When he had cut enough wood for the burnt offering, he set out for the place God had told him about. On the 3rd day, Abraham looked up and saw the place in the distance. He said to his servant, stay here with the donkey while I and the boy go over there. We will worship and then we will come back to you. Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering and placed it on his son Isaac, and he himself carried a fire and a knife. As the 2 of them went on together, Isaac spoke up and said to his father Abraham, Father? Yes, my son, Abraham replied. The fire and the wood are here, Isaac said, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? Abraham answered, God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son. And the 2 of them went on together. When they reached the place God had told him about, Abraham built an altar there and arranged the wood on it. He bound his son Isaac and laid him on the altar on top of the wood. Then he reached out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. But the angel of the Lord called out to him from heaven, Abraham, Abraham, here I am. He replied, do not lay a hand on the boy. He said, do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son and your only son. Abraham looked up, and there in a thicket he saw a ram caught by his horns. He went over and took the ram and sacrificed it as a burnt offering instead of his son. So Abraham called the place, the Lord will provide. And to this day it is said, on the mountain the Lord will provide. The angel of the Lord called Abraham from heaven a 2nd time and said, I swear by myself, declares the Lord, that because you have done this and have not withheld your son, your only son, I will surely bless you and make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky, as the sand on the seashore. Your descendants will take possession of the city of their enemies, and through your offspring all nations on earth will be blessed, because you have obeyed. So the reason why this story came to mind is because Isaac, his only son, was promised by God. When Isaac was first promised by God, Abraham was 75 years old. God didn't fulfill that promise until Abraham was 100 years old. So 25 years later, Abraham finally received the son that God promised. Even after taking matters into his own hands, he finally received the son that God had promised him. As you read it, it's almost as if God was taking that promise back. But because of Abraham's faith, he believed God was going to provide and he wasn't going to have to sacrifice his son. He still followed through. He was faithful. He obeyed God. But he held on to that faith that God was going to provide. And I'm sure it was not easy for Abraham to kill the son that God had promised him. And it wasn't like, oh, just go downstairs and kill him. He had to walk 3 days. He had to walk 3 days with his son before finally getting to the place where he was gonna have to kill him. But he was obedient and he was faithful. And because of his obedience and because of that faith, his descendants were blessed. They were blessed. I know at that time it was probably difficult for Abraham to just trust God and hold on to that promise, because he waited so long, 25 years. He waited for that son. He had that son when he was 100 years old. And now he was gonna have to kill him. But he was sure that God would come through. He was sure in what he couldn't see. He was confident in what he hoped for. And that's that God would provide. Hebrews 10:23 in the NIV version says, "Let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess, for he who promised is faithful." The NLT version says, "Let us hold tightly without wavering to the hope we affirm, for God can be trusted to keep his promise." Ooh, that felt so good. God can be trusted to keep his promise. So let us hold tightly. Romans 4:21 in ASV says, "In being fully assured that what he has promised, he was able to also perform." So these are all Bible verses that's saying, like, God wouldn't promise you anything if he wasn't planning on performing it. He wouldn't promise you something just to take it back. I think sometimes we think of God as being one of us. Because, sometimes we promise things and we might take it back. We say things and we're like, I changed my mind. But no, God stands firm on what he says. And when he tells you something, he's going to hold on to that promise. He's going to fulfill that promise. All he needs you to do is be patient and wait. And not just wait while you worry and complain, but wait and have faith. Wait and tell God that I trust you. I know you're working. It's working in my favor. I believe your hands is on this. That's something that no matter how many times you say it, you won't be able to see it. You just have to believe. You just have to believe. You just have to have confidence and assured in what God has told you, even though you can't see it. And it's hard. From the beginning, God's hands was in everything. From choosing my school to connecting me to that ministry to telling me to fast. Everything was predestined. His hands was in everything. And sometimes it takes time before you can see how God has been working. To know that, man, when I thought you left me, you was right there. And I was going to save this other topic for another time, but I want to talk about it now because it applies to having faith and what having faith is like. So during the 4 days where I had to wait and be patient, and then the 24 hours between my first meeting and my second meeting, I wasn't walking around moping, terrified, shaking, acting like the whole world was ending around me, but I was walking around with faith. I was walking in a way like God had already answered what I asked for. And what I can compare this to is children. Now, I heard this sermon before. I'm not sure by who, but I'm going to use it. During the 4 days, while I was walking by faith, grabbing my faith, and, holding it tight, holding that promise, holding God's promise, and just really having faith that my Father would come through, right? I was walking in a way that was childlike. And I mean this in a positive way. Matthew 18:3 in the NIV version says, "Truly I tell you, unless you change and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." And I'm sharing that verse because it applies to this. I was walking childlike. I was walking in a way that was like a child. Let me give y'all an example. if I promise my nephew a piece of candy when he's done eating his food, before he even gets the food, he got that candy on his mind. He got that candy on his mind. He gonna come to me all day and remind me, when I'm done eating this food, you told me I could get some candy. When he's done eating his food, he's gonna make sure to find me and say, you remember you told me when I'm done eating my food, you was gonna give me some candy? He's gonna go and tell his mom, his aunts, everyone he comes in contact with, that I told him when he's done eating his food, he can get some candy. And that's what it's like walking by faith. That when God tells you something, when God told me my testimony was right around the corner, I started to tell people about it. I didn't tell that story without telling someone, God said my testimony is right around the corner. I'm not worried because God is working on it. No, because God said. And that's what it's like walking by faith. That's what's going to get you in the kingdom of heaven. It's that trust, that belief that he's working. And that's something that children have before you even give him the candy. His mind is on it. He telling people, when I'm done eating this food, she said she gonna give me some candy. She said she gonna give me some candy when I'm done eating this food. So I gotta eat the food so I can get the candy. You feel me? And that's what it's like when God says be childlike. It's that faith. It's that belief. And my sister told my nephew he gonna get something. He gonna call me. Guess what my mom said I can get? Guess what my mom said I can get? She said I can get a new PlayStation. He gonna call other people. Guess what my mom said I can get? Guess what my mom said I can get? And that's how we gotta be with God. When God promises you something, when God tells you something, you gotta go tell people about it. Because it shows that you believe. Because when you're not sure about something, you keep it to yourself. You keep it to yourself. You're not sure. You don't want to go telling good news and you ain't received the good news yet. That's what adults do. Children, they don't care. They gonna go tell everybody. You don't want to go out telling people your business and it didn't even fall through yet. Like, kids don't care about that. They gonna go tell people. And on Tuesday, my mom said she gonna take me to the park. Is your mom taking you to the park? That's what it means to be childlike, to have faith like a child. So I came here to thank God and to share my story like a child about what my Father has done in my life and how much I've grown. I thank him for coming through, for fulfilling his promises, and continue to fulfill his promises. Glory be to God. There's no other God like him. There's none. And that brings me to my second kind of testimony. We got a 2-in-1 special today. A 2-in-1. 2-in-1 special. So in my journal that I read to you guys, I said, this is my first test. Now, I actually just realized this as I was reading to you guys the first time. This is my first test. Meaning, there was another one coming. So in the midst of me dealing with that one situation where I can't get in any other trouble in order for me not to be officially suspended, right? Somebody, I know the person, but I'm just gonna say somebody went and put in some allegations about me, false allegations about me to my Department of Residence. As I'm dealing with the situation, it really felt like a stab to the heart. Like, y'all, someone is working hard to pull me outside. So that's, yeah. Bro, it really felt like, wow, God. But in the midst of me trying to hold on to my faith for that other situation, here came another one on top of 8. I felt like I was in a ring with the devil. We were fighting. Anyway, I really got hold of my faith, and I didn't let that bring me down either. It felt sweet. So I received my second letter saying that I had allegedly violated some So I was going to get a package from my office, and I was like, you know what? Because I know these things are true, I'm not going to wait until Friday when we were supposed to have my other appointment for the whole other situation. I went down and just like spontaneously, I decided to talk to the guy. I didn't even know he was in his office. Like, this is all just God working. I sat down. He seemed really happy. But he also seemed like he was masking his joy because he was pissed off at me. And I'm like, whoa, relax. I didn't do anything, I just came. So we sat down, I introduced myself, I talked to him, and I just began to tell my story and be honest and truthful with him. And at the end of it, he was like, I believe you. He told me I was raised well, and a lot of it just seemed like assumptions, which that's what they were. So after that, like when he said he believed me, I started to cry. Now I didn't go in there. I don't be crying in front of that man, but I started to cry because I was like relieved. Not only did God show up for me once, but he showed up for me twice. She gonna show up again. Because I got the faith to believe he gonna show up again. He showed up for me twice. And the guy said I was brave and I was raised well, and he's happy that I came down to his office to talk about it. He said most people wouldn't have done that. And like I said, it was just spontaneous. I was going to pick up a package and I'm just like, let me stop by. But that's how God works. He does the unexpected. So after I got over the one situation, we resolved it. We just resolved that other situation recently. And then I got the final email for the second situation. And I didn't know how to respond to it because in the first situation, I had to like sign stuff and say that we agreed on this. And then if I violated, then ... In the second situation, he was just like, you know what? I feel like you know the rules and regulations, so we're just gonna settle this. And so when I received the letter, I didn't know what to do. So I called his office and I'm like, hey, is he there? He wasn't there, so they gave me his personal number. And I called him again and I was like, am I supposed to signature this, or like, do I have to file paperwork? Like, what am I supposed to do? And he's like, you don't have to do anything. I resolved everything for you, and it was really nice meeting you. He was really kind and nice. And I was like, wow. Faith. So January alone, I've grown in faith. I've been restored and renewed and transformed. And I feel like I can take on the world. I successfully passed 2 tests. And God is still working. So I just want to give God thank you. I just want to glorify his name. Because he's so good to me. If there's anyone out there struggling to grab hold of their faith, struggling to have confidence in the unseen, you haven't accepted Jesus Christ into your life, start here, start now. Grab hold of that faith and accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and personal Savior. And repeat this prayer after me. Father, Lord, I come to your presence as a sinner. I confess all my sins. Please forgive me. I promise not to go back to my old ways. I believe that Jesus Christ came and died for me on the cross of Calvary so that my sins can be wiped away. I accept Jesus Christ as my Lord and personal Savior. Be the Lord over my life. I promise to serve you forever and ever. In Jesus' name, amen. Heaven is celebrating you right now. They're having a good party for you. God is so good. God is so good. But thank you all for sitting here and listening to me. This is our second Testimony Tuesday video. I'm so excited for this new series. I hope you guys are too. And I will see you guys next Tuesday. I'm so excited to see what God is going to be doing in my life. Oh yes.